Now we need to understand how to measure sustainable value creating strategies. And I would like to introduce a few metrics to be used for that particular and very important purpose. So, I would like to remind you in the previous parts of our lecture today, we discussed several matrices. There was a baseline matrix, which was based on the combination of the revenue growth rate and the market value of the capital growth rate. And then we switched immediately to the matrix, which is very, very similar, but instead of market value of the capital growth rate, we applied economic spread. And we divided by vertical axis that second matrix at the point when spread is equal to 0. So why we made this way? Because we wanted to introduce fundamental value creating metrics which reflects this fundamental value creation processes into the metrics as the tool for business analytics. And I would like also to mention that we combine these two metrics, we apply them to several samples in our applied research in the School of Finance at our university in previous years. And then our next very important observation, if we compare these both metrics in terms of the final meaning, final role in our analysis, what could be our observations? If in the first type of the metrics, which is based on the market capitalization, on the market value, which is evident, which is easily observable as a type of a data, some companies will be posted into that matrix according to their variables and their metrics. And if we compare their positions in that baseline metrics to the positions in the second type of metrics based on the economic spread, but not on the market value of the capital, what may happen? And it really happened in our analysis. The first particular case that may happen in the baseline metrics, some company could be on the right side on the matrix, which means the company has above mean value of the rate of growth of the market value of its capital. But in the second matrix based on economic spread, it could be on the left side, which means that fundamental processes of value creation which are captured by the economic spread are not as high as they looked in terms of the expectations. So expectations are over-optimistic, I would say. That's why in the first type of metrics based on the market capitalization, on the market prices, which are underlie this horizontal axis, expectations are too high. But fundamental processes are really more modest than investors expect them to be. Vice versa, it could happen also. Then when in the first metrics, some companies are on the left side. So it means that the rates of market value growth are less or lower than the mean values for the overall sample. But in the second metrics based on the economic spread, they are on the right side of the metrics, which means their fundamental processes are better than investors perceive them. It's again expectations. In the first case, over-optimistic. In the second case, maybe pessimistic expectations. So the expectations may explain the different position of some companies within these two matrices built on the same sample across different industries, across different companies. But when you build these both matrices, you also will see that there are only few companies that are mismatched between these two types of matrices. So it gives us the power, that type of a comparison, to introduce additional step in our analysis and to introduce you additional metric. So I advise you to use the metric which is shown here in that particular slide. I developed that metric after we made all this analysis with these two different matrices, and we can describe this new available metric as some sustainable value growth index. So you see here on the right side of the equation that we are using the rate of growth of sales revenue, of course, again with the geometric mean. We are using also the period of observation, which is nominated here as K years. And the second term on the right side of the equation, L divided by K, means the number of years with the positive economic profit, which is nominator L, the proportion of them in the overall period of observation, K. And in case the company really has sustainable process of value creation, it will mean that its economic profit year by year is positive. It may be higher or maybe lower, but it's still positive. Then L will be equal to K, and this coefficient becomes, of course, equal to 1. But in opposite case, when the company is not so much sustainable in the growth of the value, in the value creation, in generating positive economic profits, and within some years of the period of observation, which is K period, it meets some negative economic profits in some years, then L, of course, will be lower than K. And it will become a really influential component of that new metric. And the third metric is the sum of positive economic spreads when you compare actual return on capital employed to the company weighted average cost of capital. I don't advise to sum up all the spreads, negative and positive, in that third component, because the overall idea of that metric is to capture some performance measure which is describing the picture of value creation processes. In case you have got negative economic profit within some periods, it means within these years there was no process of value creation at all. So to my mind, in the third component, you should not add those negative spreads. So what is the overall role of this type of approach? You are still looking as if you are with this metrics benchmarking among the companies. But in that case, it's more compact, and you can apply it as well as to the past periods in your business and your competitors also across them, as well as to the future years. So these three important components are really capturing the most important events in the value creation processes. Let's rewrite and again discuss everything we already said. You see here the same formula, but you see the new title for this slide. I would say that the meaning, the role of that particular metric is to describe whether some particular strategic plan or strategic action program of any company measured through these three components, illustrated by those three components, is a shareholder wealth creation approach. So if you compare one plan of action to another one, you will get CGI of different values. Let's say you will get one plan A with a high level of the CGI and the plan B, on the contrary, with much lower value of the CGI, and the plan C will with the CGI which is equal to 0. Why it could be equal to 0? Because your second variable here, L divided by K, will say that you will not have any positive year in terms of the economic profit creation. So then L is 0. And you will also have your third variable, the sum of economic spreads, equal to 0. So the CGI 0 means this is the plan which does not even promise any value creation, and you are having them on agenda. You are discussing those plans, being people in business analytics. You provide them with this data, and then you will get additional illustrations and additional argumentation, of course, to be deeper in your analysis and in your choice between these different alternatives. So this is shareholder wealth creation, or if you want, this is the metric which shows the measure of love to the shareholders, to the owners of that particular firm, if you want. The attitude of the management team, which is responsible for all these three metrics included into that measure. It's the attitude of the overall management team towards the message imposed on them by the board of directors, which says they are responsible for the creation of the value for their owners, for the shareholders of the company. When sales growth will demonstrate, will illustrate the strategic strengths of the business and the ambitions to be much stronger in the near future. And the second and the third metrics are describing the financial performance strengths of this strategic plan. But now I need to move forward saying, wow, but we know that we already are discussing everything about the value creation in the period when economy has turned to the so-called inclusive capitalism or stakeholder capitalism or stakeholder market economy. We already discussed in the corporate finance course that nowadays those stakeholders, they became specific investors and they are generating unique and immutable resources in the company. In our previous topic in that course, I also again was back to the idea of stakeholder value creation, and I already introduced you that particular index about harmonization of the interest of different non-financial stakeholders, which are providing these dynamic capabilities of the company, its ability to be agile and to be really very flexible and to be very captive to the new growth opportunities in the market. So I'm reminding you that we already described that particular index. So now we can combine these both new metrics. The sustainable growth index on one side, which is describing, as I already mentioned, the attitude of the management team towards their message to run the company for the sake of the shareholder value creation at first. But now when we combine it with the harmonization of interest index, we will introduce additional dimension, which means the non-financial stakeholders' role in this active process of value creation, when combining them both, we are now going deeper, and we will get additional understanding of the power of some strategic plans that are on agenda now in some particular company. So what we can observe here in that matrix, if we compute those two variables for the different action plans and try to compare them on the basis of that matrix, I would say that now we'll get sustainable stakeholder value growth matrix Y. And we will get different options whether we will really gain sustainable stakeholder value creation afterwards when implementing some of those strategic action plans. The Q1, which is denoted here with this strategy type A, let's say, is the best, of course, among the best, because it will give us financial performance in terms of value creation higher than some other plans we are comparing to, and it will give us the degree of harmonization of interests of non-financial stakeholders with the actions in the strategic plan, in the strategic program of the company, the highest degree of matching their interest possible. And the Q1 is the best option for going further in the value creation processes. The Q2 now, it's the type of a plan, a type of a strategy when we will have very high degree of meeting the interest of non-financial stakeholders by all the actions in the strategic plan, but maybe we are losing some dynamics in the shareholder value creation, but it's still possible strategy. But how about the Q3 and Q4? And there are the question marks here. To my mind, I would advise to look at them in terms of their short-sighted background. Why I think that those are short-termistic plans. Why? Because Q3 and Q4, they are dealing with the fact of negative values of the harmonization of interests index. And negative values of that index, they by themselves mean that the plan that are on agenda, that are under consideration, really doesn't meet the interests of the key strategic non-financial stakeholders. And they will be demotivated. And being demotivated, they will not create enough intellectual capital components. They will not generate enough unique inimitable resources. They will stop building dynamic capabilities of the company. So we can continue in this, let's say, negative direction. We can, of course, still accept that particular plan, but we need to understand that this is short-sighted vision of the future of any company. I do hope you will discuss it among your class. I do hope you can think in terms of this new introduced dimensions. Of course, we will discuss it also in our practical seminars within the course in our degree program. Of course, we may and we are going to apply all these matrices, including that particular type, for some particular real data analysis and real case analysis.